being aware of the sort of things that could go wrong in a relationship is actually quite useful. And the thing is, what I'm going to share with you today, I'm going to be focusing on personal relationships rather than workplace and business, purely because I'm acutely aware that foreign attracts lots of different types of businesses, and I'm not sure whether some people have staff or not. So I think personal relationships is something we're going to be in, or we've been in. So it might give you some insights as to what may have gone wrong in the past, rather than just the obvious. What I'd like to do is, if I can go through the presentation, and then I'll take all your questions at the end, if I may. Is that okay with everyone? Yeah. Because if I start answering questions, I'll go off on a tangent, because this is something I could talk about for hours. What I'm sharing with you today is based on my experience. I'm a workplace mediator, as well as a family mediator. I also do coaching. I work with troops back from, at the moment, Afghanistan and other places who have internal conflicts, categorised as post-traumatic stress. And some of them genuinely do have post-traumatic stress, and some of them just have internal conflicts. Yeah? And so I'm very much involved with a programme called the Warrior Charity, and I assist people to actually look at themselves individually, because what we tend to do when we're in conflict is we start comparing with others, and it becomes almost who's had it worse, rather than actually what's going on for you as an individual, rather than as a collective group. So very much into all types of conflict. And without further ado, so what I'm going to do is talk about personal relationships, but what I share with you, if you change the context, it's relevant, for other areas of life. And the first thing I'd like to do, how do we know if we're in a good relationship? And some people think that's really obvious, you either are or you're not. Well, actually, it's not always the case. But we do gauge whether our relationship is going well through our senses. And how do we take in information? Well, we take in information through all our different senses, but we will all have a preference of how we take in our information. So some people who are visual will be very aware of how their partner may look at them. And they want visual cues as to how the relationship is going. Whereas someone who's very auditory may need to hear that their relationship is going well. Maybe, when we first get together, you do a lot of everything, don't you? I mean, we all do all of these things, unless you have a disability, but we will all have a preference. Kinesthetic is people who are very touchy and feely, and they express their emotions through feel, very much about feelings. Whereas someone like this would say it's not very logical to me, doesn't make sense. Completely different styles, yeah? And the visual person, might say, I don't see that you love me. Yeah, so we do use different language based on our preference. We do all of them. I'm not going to talk about these two, I think you can use your imagination. But we do all of them, but we will have a preference. It's estimated that we take in 2 million bits, and that apparently is a small estimate. Some say as much as 11 million bits of information every second of every day. Now think about that. If we were to be constantly taking all that information, which people tell us we are, we'd go stir crazy. So what actually happens is we have filtering systems, lots of different filtering systems, yeah? And it looks a bit like this. These are just 3. So something external happens, and we take in the information through all our different senses, and then we start to filter it so we don't go do lammy, yeah? And these are some of the filtering systems. So let me just give you an example of that. If something was to happen in this room right now and the police were to arrive, we'd all have a completely different version, or some similarities and differences, based on our information and how we take it in. So for example, the visual person would say they had red hair, they were 5'4", or whatever it might be, whereas the auditory person might think they had brown hair, but what he will know, or she will know, is what they said. Yeah, because they pay more attention to the words as opposed to what someone looks like. The kinesthetic person will be able to tell you very much about how it felt when they were in the room. Maybe they're smelling things like that. But anyway, so in our personal relationships, when we first start going out with each other, we do all of those things. So we're taking in all the senses and we're gauging that our relationship's going well, because how we're gauging our relationships works is being served. When you first go out with someone, you're touching more, you're talking more, all of those those things. You're looking at each other more and all of those sort of things. So bear that in mind for later on. So something happens and we start to delete stuff that is not deemed important. So for example, if I were to say, let's use the analogy of feet. If I was to say to you, Sam, can you feel your toe in your right shoe right now? Can you fiddle it about? Can you get the sensation? Where was that sensation before I asked you? Yeah. But it is really, it's just that it's not needed at the time, and you just go into your filing system and you bring it back out. Yeah. So we delete information that isn't deemed important, and we do that all the time with relationships. Yeah. Say for example, when you go home today and you drop your car keys off because you don't need them because you're not going to work till the morning, you put them there, but you don't know where you put them. Yeah, because you didn't need them. But when you need them, you start, oh, where did I put them?
Last place you will look.
So in relationships, a lot of the time couples will say to me, or business, managers and stuff, and when I told you, you didn't tell me. I did tell you. No, you didn't. Now it could be that they probably did, they're not lying, but it's probably that you didn't really pay attention to that because it didn't seem important. Yeah? I'm not saying people don't lie, and I'm not saying people forget, but that's, normally sometimes our filtering system can go wrong. Yeah? So actually, perhaps thinking about it and instead of creating an argument straight away might be useful.